This is a CBS News Special Report. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Good afternoon, everyone. We're coming on the air with breaking news. President-elect Donald Trump has been ordered to appear for sentencing in his New York criminal prosecution case on January 10th, just 10 days before his presidential inauguration. Trump was convicted in May of last year on 34 counts related to his hush money payments to Stormy Daniels in the lead up to the 2016 election. It's worth noting the president-elect's legal team had suggested that that conviction be thrown out in light of a Supreme Court judgment on presidential immunity. Judge Juan Merchan was reviewing that request for those convictions to be thrown out in light of that Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity. Judge Merchan concluded, however, that presidential immunity for a sitting president does not extend to a president-elect. I want to bring in our congressional correspondent, Scott MacFarlane, who followed the trial closely. Scott?
Yeah, pretty telling argument here from the judge in this release, in this court filing. Judge Merchan says in so many words that he is ruling out a period of incarceration, sentencing Donald Trump to prison when this sentencing happens. And he explains his rationale, although he acknowledges it's premature to say this before the hearing, but he says even though a sentence of prison would be warranted in this case, that the government and he acknowledge it's not practicable for a forthcoming president to be facing a prison sentence. What's more, he says, according to this extended filing by the judge in the case, that he is concerned about the mental and physical well-being of a president-elect in the final days before the president-elect takes office. He is making some very practical notes as he orders this sentencing hearing so as to make clear Donald Trump is not going to face a prison sentence here when the sentencing is finally handed down.
And, Scott, is there some discretion that the president-elect can exercise as to how he may appear?
Yeah, we're trying to fix down on this right now, Major, but there is the possibility of a virtual appearance. Some courts have this when there are extenuating circumstances for a defendant. You can appear virtually, almost by Zoom, the way you would for a meeting, and appear that way in the courtroom if it goes forward as now scheduled next Friday. This really is a coda, though, isn't it, Major, for the criminal cases Donald Trump faced? The one dismissed here in Washington, D.C. for alleged election interference, the one dismissed by the judge in Florida for classified records, alleged misconduct with those, and now in New York, where he was found guilty by a jury on 34 felonies. The clock has worked in his favor. There is no time for Judge Merchan, according to what he spelled out today, to issue a prison sentence to a president-elect of the United States.
Scott MacFarlane, thank you very much. CBS News investigative reporter Graham Cates has been following this investigation and the case from the start. He joins us on the phone. Graham, your impressions?
I think that there was really only one other option for the judge here if he wasn't going to dismiss the case outright, which he said he wasn't inclined to do, and that was postponing this all the way until after Trump's presidency in 2029. And that was a suggestion made by prosecutors, something for him to think about. But given his inclination here to not impose a sentence of incarceration and his conclusion that a president-elect is not above appearing in a local courtroom, this was really probably his only option. And with such a short window before inauguration, he has very little choice but to schedule it next week.
And, Graham, that would suggest that those who look at the trial and the conviction as accountability for a misdeed, the judge is saying the accountability is limited because we have a president-elect who's about to take office, but one procedural aspect of accountability can be an appearance.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's no circumstance where the defendant can skip sentencing altogether. And in fact, he can't appeal his conviction until after the sentencing occurs. So there's some value in having this happen for President-elect Trump himself. But Scott noted that Trump has been given the opportunity to appear virtually. In a New York courtroom, that's extraordinarily rare. It's really an option given to defendants who are in the hospital, who are unable physically to appear. But here, because he's the president-elect, because is his whole entourage, the Secret Service, all of these factors that go into it, the security around the courthouse. They've actually, on a few occasions, given him this option, and he's exercised it once.
Graham Cates, thank you very much. Senior White House and political correspondent Edo Keefe is in West Palm Beach traveling with the president. Ed?
Major, no reaction yet from the Trump camp. There usually is a statement in response to legal developments like this, but nothing as of now. The White House or the press pool that monitors his movements here in the Palm Beach area noted just a little while ago that he's en route back from his golf course, which is about 10 minutes behind our cameras, to his home at Mar-a-Lago. That's in keeping with the usual daily cadence of going to the golf course to spend time there and then go home to Mar-a-Lago. So we'll see if we hear from him at some point in the evening now, either in written statement or other ways in response to this. Important to point out that in this ruling, it looks as if the judge is calling for what's called an unconditional discharge, which is essentially releasing the president-elect with no further obligations or responsibilities, but would essentially still consider Trump a convicted felon in the eyes of the law, or at least in New York State in this state case. Just reiterate what Graham said there a moment ago. He can appeal the judge's decision denying the motion to dismiss the charges, but he cannot appeal the convictions themselves until after he's sentenced. So there's still a chance that Trump here in the next few days will try to appeal what the judge is asking for with that appearance next Friday. But the substance of those 34 felony counts still not up for conviction. And notable that this is an outgrowth, as you pointed out, of that Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity. What the judge is saying in this case is what the Supreme Court said about presidential immunity doesn't apply to his actions in this so-called hush money case. The other thing that the judge calls out in his ruling in the footnotes is concerns about language used by the president-elect's defense team over the course of the trial, resorting, as he says, quote, to language, indeed rhetoric, that has no place in legal pleadings. For example, countless times in their motion to dismiss, the judge said, counsel accuses the prosecution in this court of engaging in unlawful and unconstitutional conduct. Says that could have a chilling effect on judges, something even the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in recent days has said is causing real problems across the entire American justice system. So we await comment from the Trump team, but obviously not the kind of thing the president-elect wants to be spending his time doing in the lead-up to his inauguration. Major.
Certainly interferes with transition plans and inauguration planning. Edo Keefe for us in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you very much. To reiterate the breaking news, President-elect Trump's bid to toss his hush money conviction has been denied. He is now scheduled to be sentenced January 10th in New York, just 10 days before inauguration. But the judge significantly has indicated Trump will not be sentenced to any time in prison. Our coverage on this will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news, and tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Major Garrett. Good day.